Fellas, there's a lot of potential matchups floating around the UFC for Alex Pereira. Some people think it should be the heavyweight division, maybe a John Jones or a Tom Aspinall. Some people think he should just stick with the light heavyweight division. Some people think he should go to boxing. So I'm going to look at the 5 most difficult matchups for Alex Pereira in the UFC, the 5 nightmare matchups, and the 5 fighters who could beat Alex Pereira and have the best chance out of everyone else. Now, I'm not saying all of these guys would beat Alex Pereira. Some of them might have fought him before. I'm just saying I think these guys would give him the toughest test in the UFC, and they have to be reasonable as well. I can't just include some random heavyweight who would be a stylistic nightmare if it's never going to be reasonable. So we're going to go for a few fighters, and we'll start off at number 5. And this wasn't easy to do. I could only think of 4 solid opponents, and number 5 was quite a hard one to come up with, but I've gone with Israel Adesanya. I mean, first of all, he's the only guy to beat Alex Pereira in the UFC, so I've just got to include him in this list. Now, it's probably not a realistic option. I don't see them ever fighting again, unless Adesanya gets the middleweight belt and then moves up to light heavyweight. I don't see them ever fighting each other. But I've just got to include Adesanya. He's faced him before, he's got the most experience against him, and in the most recent fight he got the win, so I've got to go with Adesanya for this one as number 5. If they were to fight again, whether it be middleweight or light heavyweight, I would probably go with, obviously, Pereira to win this one. I think he's a nightmare matchup for Adesanya in the light heavyweight division, but just because Adesanya's beaten him before, and I've already thought of 4 other matchups, I'm going to go with Israel Adesanya for number 5. And even though it would be extremely unfavourable to choose him if he was to have another fight with Pereira, he's fought him before, he's beaten him at least before. He beat him in the most recent fight. I wouldn't pick him to beat Pereira in a rematch, but just because he's fought him before and beaten him before, I've got to include him somewhere else on this list. And to be honest, who else would you include? After you've seen this list, it is going to be hard to think of anyone because of how good Pereira is. But I'll just slide Adesanya in there. He's got the most experience. He's beaten him before. And then at number 4, I'm going to go with another former opponent of Alex Pereira. And I'm going to go with Jan Blachowicz. Now, out of everybody in the light heavyweight division, Jan Blachowicz is definitely giving Alex Pereira his toughest test. He won the first round, out-grappled him dominantly in the first, nearly got the submission against him. Second round, for the first half of the second round, he did the same thing, but he seemed to gas out with Jan Blachowicz, and I'm not going to make excuses for him. Obviously, Pereira won that fight fair and square, but in Jan Blachowicz's defense, it was in altitude, and we've seen Jan Blachowicz go 5 rounds perfectly before. We saw it when he fought Ankalaev. We saw it when he fought Adesanya. He's been 5 rounds multiple times, and he hasn't looked bad doing so. So for him to get gassed out after the second round against Alex Pereira, and I know he had a heavy grappling approach, which probably contributed to it, but I think if you do a normal fight between them, if they were to fight 10 times, I would obviously favour Pereira to win most of them, but I would definitely say that Jan Blachowicz would win a couple of the 10 times just because of the grappling that he has, the fact that he's, well, nearly got a submission against him before, and just because he's a bit of a tricky matchup. If you put anyone well-rounded in there with Pereira, it's probably going to be a difficult matchup. You give him strikers, that's his best opportunity, but you put people who are well-rounded in there, people who can mix up the striking with the grappling, I think any one of those guys are going to be dangerous for Alex Pereira. So I'm going to include Jan Blachowicz, definitely by far his toughest test. I mean, you look at what Pereira's doing to everyone else at light heavyweight. KO'd Yuri twice, KO'd Jamal Hill. Jan Blachowicz took him to a decision, and there was some people saying it was a robbery as well. A lot of people, not myself, but some people actually think that Jan Blachowicz won that fight. Most of them are just Adesanya fans trying to think of any excuse to put down Pereira, but a lot of people think it was a robbery. It was a close fight, I'll give him that, and he nearly submitted Pereira in the first, so I'll say that Jan Blachowicz fits that number 4 spot for the 4th guy in the UFC who could beat Alex Pereira. Again, if they were to have a rematch, I would still probably favour Alex Pereira to win, but it's still a competitive fight. I think that's more competitive than the fights with Yuri would have been, so I'll put Jan Blachowicz at number 4. Then at number 3, we've got the guy who's probably going to be facing Alex Pereira next, and I hope we do see this fight, and it's Magomed Ankalaev. There's multiple reasons why Ankalaev is the most dangerous matchup, in my opinion, for Alex Pereira in the light heavyweight division. I mean, first of all, a lot of people have this misconception that Magomed Ankalaev is just a pure grappler who has wrestling, and then on the feet he's tossed. Don't get me wrong, if you're going to fight Alex Pereira, striking with him is the last thing you want to be doing. You want to be taking it to the mat. But something that Magomed Ankalaev has, which is obviously, dangerous, is his striking. He's got really good striking. He showed it against Johnny Walker. He's got a really nice technical style of striking. And again, I'm not saying he should stand with Pereira, but he can definitely use that to set up the takedowns. And because he has got a striking threat, that is going to make it easier for him to set up takedowns as well. And obviously, he's probably the best wrestler in the division. We saw in that fight with Jan Blachowicz. I mean, we saw what Jan Blachowicz did to Alex Pereira, and we saw what Ankalaev did to Jan Blachowicz. He's a really good wrestler as Magomed Ankalaev. He's really good at, getting control time on the bottom, and he's overall just a really well-rounded mixed martial artist. He's dangerous from everywhere. He can latch up submissions. He can get KOs on the feet. So I would say that he would definitely be the most difficult fight for Alex Pereira in at least the light heavyweight division. I think I've been saying this for a while. I think he's more difficult than Jan Blachowicz, Hill, Yuri, Rakic, any of these guys just because he has the wrestling and he has the striking to back it up as well. So I'm going to go with Magomed Ankalaev as the third most dangerous guy. And again, I hope we do see this fight. I know it's probably rumoured to be next, and I hope it is next, because I really am intrigued to see how this matchup would go, because even though I would probably favour Pereira, it's a pretty 50-50 matchup. It's near enough 50-50 between the two of them. It's a difficult fight for Pereira. I'm putting it at number 3. And then at number 2, the second most dangerous fight for Alex Pereira in the UFC, I'm going with Jon Jones. Now, this is one of the matchups that a lot of people have been calling for. After Pereira beat Yuri, Joe Rogan's been calling for this. People online have been calling for this fight. They think it's going to be a super fight, and I will give him that. If Alex Pereira was to fight Jon Jones, it would be probably the biggest fight you can make in the UFC right now if you take away Conor McGregor. It would be massive. You've got two massive stars, two massive pay-per-view stars going at it, and I think Jon Jones would be a really difficult matchup for Pereira. I think it would go very similar to Jon Jones versus Cyril Gane, and I know that Pereira's working with Glover Teixeira, and he would probably have better resistance than Cyril Gane, but Jones has been in the octagon for years. This dude has been fighting generation after generation of champions. He's fought every style you can possibly think of. He's such a good wrestler. Alex Pereira's come to the UFC, and he hasn't really faced a dominant wrestler as of yet. Jon Jones would take Pereira down and submit him in the first round, just like he did to Cyril Gane. I don't think this would be a competitive fight. Now, I will give him this. Jon Jones is old. He looked a bit stiff against Cyril Gane on the feet, and on the feet, I would definitely favour Alex Pereira to land that big shot, and who knows, maybe he does develop some insane takedown defence with the work that he's doing with Glover Teixeira, but I would definitely bet on Jones winning that fight. I think he'd take him down, find the submission, just like he did with Cyril Gane. He's faced everyone, man. He's the most experienced guy in that heavyweight division, at least, well, I mean, maybe not the most experienced guy in the heavyweight division, but he's faced so many killers, he's faced so many champions, he's faced so many generations at the highest level. And he's just able to get finishes from everywhere. So I would go Jon Jones at number 2. And then number 1, I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall. I think Tom Aspinall's the most dangerous fight for Alex Pereira in the UFC. You go back to what I said about Magomed Ankalaev, how he's well-rounded and how he's dangerous everywhere. Tom Aspinall is like that times 10. I honestly think he has the capability to KO Alex Pereira on the feet. Like, even if Alex Pereira had like 100% takedown defense, it was impossible to take him down, I still wouldn't write Tom Aspinall off on the feet. And I'm not saying I'd necessarily pick him to win on the feet, because Pereira's a dangerous guy. But that 1-2 that he has, the power that he has, the speed in the heavyweight division, the fact that he's so elusive on the feet. He also has the striking to back it up. And again, the threat of the takedown. When Pereira thinks he's shooting for a double leg takedown, Aspinall just clips him with a 1-2. And obviously the grappling as well. Tom Aspinall's such a seasoned grappler. He's been grappling his entire life. The way that he submitted Arlovsky and Volkov and completely just dealt with Sergey Spivak as well. He's such a good grappler, is Tom Aspinall. He's just dangerous everywhere the fight goes. He's quicker than a guy like Jon Jones. He's stronger than a guy like Jon Jones. He's younger. He's in his prime. I think Tom Aspinall will deal with Alex Pereira pretty comfortably, and I think he has multiple ways to win. It's not like he has to take him down and hope that Pereira's takedown defense is evolved. I think if he wanted to take him down, I think he'd have a good opportunity at doing so. And even if it was on the feet, even though his odds aren't the highest, I still wouldn't completely write him off. So I think the most difficult guy for Alex Pereira in the UFC right now would be Tom Aspinall. But let me know your thoughts on this list if you agree, if I missed anyone off this list. And yeah, who do you think's the most toughest test for Alex Pereira? Let me know. Thanks for watching.